Hello and welcome to the broadcast. Sorry for the multiple false starts today. I think I've just about got the technology figured out. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. If anyone could give me a quick indication in the chat that you can indeed hear me, that would be much appreciated. So thank you for joining me today. It is a lovely sunny day in South London. It is Eurovision Day. I understand it is National Pizza Party Day. And it is also 16 years exactly since Bonkers was released by Dizzy Rascal and Armand van Helden, just to give you an idea of how old we're all getting. So I hope everyone is looking forward to a quick run through of the race today. We have had a very exciting get-together in South London at the Herne Hill Velodrome, where the start of the race was. It was moved from central London to South London, which is also my neck of the woods, and it was lovely to see everyone again, even though I'm not taking part myself. At the moment, obviously, the race started roughly 5 hours ago, actually a bit more, 7 hours ago, no less. So everyone is by and large passing through Paris or on their way to Paris. I'm showing you the map at the top of the screen. You can see that various people are already on their way out of Paris. But before we get there, I thought it would be good to set the scene for the race and just recap what the rules are and what the point of this whole thing is. So by way of an introduction, my name is Bram. I'm a two-time veteran of the race, and I'll be your guide as we follow the action, the drama, and the strategy that will unfold over the next coming hours and days. Let's remind you of the basic rules. Contestants must make their way from London to Marrakech in Morocco using only public transport. That means trains, trams, buses, and ferries are all in play, but hire cars and planes are strictly off limits. The clock starts and keeps running as soon as the race officially begins, and just keeps running and running and running. There are no breaks. It's a test not just of speed, but endurance, planning, adaptability, and preferably a smattering of local knowledge. There's no set budget, and phones and credit cards are permitted, so it's not really all that similar to Race Across the World. A lot of the planning will need to be done on the hoof, because only the first checkpoint is known ahead of time, and all the others will only be revealed at the start. There's more than just bragging rights at stake. Prizes will be awarded in several categories, and these create their own subplots. The general classification is very straightforward. That's simply given to the first to reach the finish line in Marrakech. The lowest cost award goes to the individual who completes the journey with the lowest verified travel spend. Country counters are aiming to rack up the highest number of countries and bonus territories on their way to Marrakech, but they still need to hit the same checkpoints. In my view, country counters are the toughest of the bunch. It really is a marathon and not a sprint for these fierce competitors. The challenge for them is to max out their route and cover as much ground as possible, but they must ensure that they don't miss the final cutoff, which is 1 week after the start. Now, let's talk about how our racers might tackle the first stage of the journey. The most direct and popular route is likely to be London St Pancras to Paris Gare du Nord via Eurostar. This is the fastest and the most straightforward. There are departures every hour at 31 minutes past the hour. And as you can see, the 10:31, that's not going to work for anyone who doesn't have the ability to time travel. But there were a couple of people shooting for the 11:31. And if you bear in mind that that is only an hour from the start, and you have to trek all the way from South London, that is pretty impressive stuff. It's a good thing that racers were told in advance that they were going to Paris, because a ticket today would set you back more than £200. If you want to know how to potentially beat peak prices on Eurostar, have a look at the video I made about this, which you can find on my profile. For the more adventurous, there's the classic train to Dover, ferry to Calais, and then onward by French rail. And finally, the lower cost option is likely a bus from London Victoria. That obviously takes a lot longer, but could cost as little as £22, even when booking last minute. In this case, you'd only be there at 6:30 tomorrow morning. We'll be tracking which strategies pay off as the day unfolds. Now it's time to talk about the racers. The field includes 100 racers, most of them from the UK, but also some coming over from as far as Australia and the US. Roughly half have opted to take a GPS tracker, which means they can contend for the prizes. Most are first-timers, but around 40 are returning. Let's preview some of the key racers to watch. Fernando from London is back to try and better his second-place finish after a nail-biting conclusion to the race last year. Known for his meticulous preparation, he likes to take a laptop with him to plan things out, and he's even made a prep visit to Herne Hill Velodrome to scope things out. We happened to talk to Fernando at the start, and we'll bring you that interview when we can. Returning to defend his title in the general classification, Alex L. outsprinted Fernando last year. The rivalry between Fernando and Alex was a highlight of the race last year, and both are determined to outpace each other all the way to Africa. Alex even won the country counter classification in the 23 edition, which means he has never failed to win a top prize. Perhaps he'll even surprise us by attempting the trifecta and going for the low-cost route. Other third-time entrants, Chalky's Butcher, Pam, and a couple of others, they're back for their third go at this race, which really shows the staying power and how much of a delight it is to see like-minded people in this environment. And I also want to give a special shout out to the Flyer Talk contingent. Flyer Talk is a message board for frequent flyers, a bunch of whom got wind of the excellent experience had by those on the Tirana expeditions last year, and they've decided to give it a go of their own. Across the field, there's excitement and perhaps some level of trepidation about venturing into parts unknown, on what for some will be their first visit to Africa. Preparation levels vary from the bare minimum of research, maybe buying a map, or looking at how to get to Paris in the first place, to protracted planning of all the possible permutations out of Paris. Now, what can you expect now? The race started at 10:30, and just beforehand, the checkpoints were announced. Paths will diverge in Paris, and we will see whose choices pan out the best. Now, let's have a look at the checkpoints and see what we can discern from the map so far. So from London to Paris, everyone's doing that. And then there are a couple of options. One follows the trail of the Camino from France, going to Santiago de Compostela before ending up in Valencia. The second one, the mountain route, connects Chamonix in the Alps with Andorra in the Pyrenees before also descending on Valencia. The last route is one for the island hoppers, going from Paris to Toulon on the wonderful French coast before heading over to Palma de Mallorca and then again venturing on to Valencia. From there, it's a straight shot to Tangiers and then over to Marrakech. So far, so straightforward, right? Now, let's have a look at the map. So if I, and bear with me 1 second. The tracking can be a little bit temperamental at times, and especially the zooming is not necessarily super straightforward. You can see a bunch of people around Portsmouth, but that looks like a sailing race potentially. I'm not sure what's going on there. But most of the people that we're interested in are in Paris. So the funny thing about Paris is that although the options for after Paris are obviously going to factor into it, there were already pre-destinations within Paris that were themed according to the options chosen afterwards. And the other difference compared to last year is that the checkpoints are presented as a pair. So you have to take Chamonix and Andorra together. You can't string them together freely as you would. So that offers a bit more of a theme, but on the other hand also introduces challenges, because obviously some of these places are a little bit out of the way, especially the ones on the Camino. I've had a little go at trying to plan the routes, and I found that both with the Chamonix route and with the Actually, with all of the routes, I was finding you were probably going to get stuck somewhere for 6 hours, maybe even 8 hours, which means people can catch up on sleep. But on the other hand, it might mean that you get stuck somewhere. We're going to see how that's going to play out. Maybe the folks can get some rest, or they get very creative and they're better at finding the routes than I am. That's very possible. So let's have a quick look at Paris. I have here a diagram for you. The diagram shows the different stations in Paris and the destinations that can be reached from these stations. So we have, clockwise from the top, we have Gare du Nord, where obviously people are arriving at. Then we have Gare de l'Est for Berlin. For Strasbourg, that will probably not be that useful. We have Gare de Lyon, which is very useful for both the direction of Chamonix as well as Barcelona. So Toulon and Chamonix being the first stops. For those, you would need to go to Gare de Lyon. On the left-hand side, we see Gare Montparnasse, which is useful for the direction Bordeaux, and Bayonne, which is probably where you'd be headed if you were looking to connect to the Saint-Jean. I've forgotten the full name, but it's the start of the Camino. All right, and now we have time for some questions. If you want to pop those in the chat, I'd be happy to run them through. So Johnny has asked, what route would you take? And he would suggested the Andorra route. Well, I don't want to give everything away, and I also don't want to interfere with the race as it is going on. I think from my point of view, I am most interested in speed. I am not a country counter. I don't have the stamina to be fully on buses for a whole week. But I'd look to try and finish Tuesday, Wednesday if I could. And it looks like there's not that much difference. So I did try and plan the route, the best possible route for each of the three options. And I found that there is a couple of hours in it at the most. And maybe folks will surprise us and find even better routes. Are there any other questions on the chat? Let me know. And Andorra is obviously also the route that I took when I did the route myself in reverse, just because it was a nice place to take the girls and adding a nice country point into the total as well. If there are no other questions, I might just sign off here. And I'll be back later with an update when we can see how the race is shaping up, when people have made their decision as to what route out of Paris they're going to take. I'm Lazy Racer, and I'm signing off here. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.